So this is our final case study by Alyssa Grant and Taylor Hurley. So we decided to do our case study on a student who is 7 years old. He's male, he's in first grade. He comes from a single-parent household, low income, often alone with his 11-year-old big brother. He repeated kindergarten. He has difficulty paying attention, has frequent outbursts in class, sometimes becomes violent, has a hard time comprehending basic foundational concepts. And then he really loves comic books, video games, and animals of every kind. As a teacher, we have so many legal responsibilities, but especially students with disabilities or special needs, we really do need to help them be successful and provide them with all the resources necessary. And so on here are the different laws or components of the law that allows us to help students be successful. So allow them a free, appropriate public education, help them be in the least restrictive environment, provide them with an individualized education plan if needed, help the parents have safeguards, non-discriminatory assessments, so according to their needs and without any biases, and then make sure that there's parental participation and that their parent is involved in the child's learning as much as possible. As a teacher, we not only have legal responsibilities, but we have moral and ethical responsibilities. And I really love this. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It says, as teachers, we are responsible for the growth of each of our students. Parents entrust us to aid in the upbringing of their children, and we are obligated to give each student the love and attention they deserve regardless of their abilities. As members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have the ultimate example of a teacher in Christ. We must remember that we are all children of God, and we are all special, unique, and made in His image. We need to see our students in the way Christ sees them and teach them as Christ would. So as teachers, we may not be able to sit there and preach to our students or share our beliefs like religiously, but we can treat them as Christ would, and we can see them as Christ would. And as we do this, then we will be able to give them the most equitable learning experience according to the needs of their abilities and what they can do. So the disabling condition that our student has is intellectual disability, specifically Down syndrome, and we wanted to focus on the academic development. He has difficulties in all academic areas, but mainly in reading and math, has issues with problem solving, and he's on the mild part of the severity scale, so he's within that 85 percentile. So he is pretty functional, but at the same time, it does need a little bit of help. Reading and math are super foundational building blocks that set the path for the rest of their learning. So if he's struggling academically in one or both of these subjects, then it could make it difficult in comprehending all of the subjects. This can apply to not only school, but outside of school, in their home and community. And then we have seen with students who have this specific condition that they can get frustrated when learning becomes more difficult and then have this disruptive behavior. Some of the strengths that this specific student exhibits is he loves science, he loves to try new things and experiment. He's really active and always willing to participate. He really loves to learn, and it makes getting his reading and math levels up a little bit easier because he's willing to make the change. He really wants to see that change. And he's very sociable and has lots of friends. So he loves to work in groups. He actually does better when he works in groups. He learns better. He has more fun, and it's more enjoyable for him. Some of his limitations are that he does perform below grade level in math and reading. So he struggles to problem solve and read, and therefore struggles in every subject. His comprehension is slower, but it is there. He can comprehend it. He just requires more specific attention and help. Because of his tougher home life and frustrations based on the intellectual disorder, he can have unpredictable behavior depending on the day. He does have a hard time focusing. He really does like a routine, and so that's super important. The PLAF that we decided to do was based on the UN Core Standard 1 and BT1 in the first grade section. So it's count to 120, starting at any number less than 120. In this range, read and write numerals and represent a number of objects with a written numeral. So according to a classroom-based assessment given on March 10th, 2020, Sean can name all 120 numbers when given a visual prompt. He can count fluently without skipping or missing numbers up until 60. He needs to count up to 120 by the end of the school year according to the UN Standard 1 and BT1. According to the same assessment, Sean writes all the numbers up to 100 when given a verbal and visual prompt. He needs to be able to write all 120 numbers according to the UN Core Standard 1 and BT1. Sean needs specialized instruction in order to access and progress in general. So our goal to help him is we want him to be able to count to 100 without skipping or missing numbers, and that'll be in 3 consecutive trial periods, and then we also want him to be able to write to 100 in 3 consecutive trial periods. So what we will do is each day during math, the students split up into little groups, and we will take a group of 2 or 3 students along with Sean, and we will work on counting and writing numbers, as other students also may struggle in this area. Bi-weekly, in these small group meetings, we will conduct assessments with each student to see how they are improving. We will write it on a sheet of paper and then keep it in our file to track his progress. So we have 3 different evidence-based accommodations. The first one is to provide a written outline or graphic organizer. This way, Sean can not only expand his vocabulary by seeing exactly what we're talking about, like put words with a visual, and that way he can stay focused and be reminded of what we're doing in the lesson. The next one is mass practice, so using repetition to constantly practice these things. And then the last one is provide short breaks, because he does have a hard time focusing and sitting still, and therefore disrupts him and his classmates and their learning, and so we want to make sure that he will be able to be successful and that his classmates can be successful, so we're providing short breaks for him to look forward to or to expect between or during activities.